Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com and the Big Four Accounting Firms YouTube channel. Before we get started, just wanted to remind everybody to support us if you have a chance or if you can. Even $1 helps, and we have a link in the description to a website called Buy Me a Coffee. It's just a way to donate to us and support us. Again, any amount is helpful so that we can keep putting out content. And there's also other ways for you to support us in the show notes to this podcast or on YouTube in the description. In today's podcast, we're going to be talking about KPMG once again. Seems like we talk about KPMG all the time, as they are now in the news all the time. But we just spoke about Bill Michael. Bill Michael having to step down after he told staff to stop moaning. And he also said that unconscious bias was complete crap. It seems like he had a mental health breakdown. Well, I don't know if I'd call it a mental health breakdown, but the stuff that you're supposed to not say out loud, he said out loud, and he had to step down. He was the chairman of KPMG UK since 2017 as a chairman and a senior partner. And since then, KPMG had just elevated 2 female partners to run the firm on a temporary basis. He'll be replaced by Mary O'Connor, who's the head of clients and markets. And she's going to take over Bill Michael's responsibilities as senior partner. And Bina Mehta will be, she's the UK board member, and she'll assume the chairman role. And it says that this is the first time in KPMG's 150-year history that either role has been held by a woman. And by either role, they mean in the UK, because this has already happened in the US. Or at least in the US, they had the US CEO, Lynn Doty, as the CEO, and I think she's been the chairman as well. And it says that the firm is also poised to tell staff that it will overhaul its unpopular performance rating system, whereby employees are ranked according to a forced distribution curve. And I'm not sure what they're going to do there, because all the firms use a forced distribution curve. I guess you don't have to use a distribution curve. You could just rate people and just keep your employees, right? Versus putting people on the bottom, because it doesn't always work. And a lot of what people do is the same. So to say that people that are doing the same type of work, that one of them is doing it worse, is just like flipping a coin, especially in smaller groups. Yeah, and it says right here in this article, which I'm reading off of FT, says, under the current system, a team of 5 must include one person who achieves the best possible rating and one person who receives the worst. So that makes sense to me, that you don't always need somebody at the bottom of the curve. And it says that this current system was appallingly outdated and probably the biggest cause of attrition and staff discontent. But the reason they do this is psychological. The reason they have that forced distribution is psychological, so that you're constantly trying to outperform the person next to you, and you never feel secure in your job, which isn't good overall and which doesn't contribute to the firm. However, partners think that the competition does contribute to the firm, but it really doesn't. All it does is promote infighting, promote internal politics, and you focus less on the client and you focus more on just outsmarting the person next to you. But I guess this system, people were complaining about it, and then Bill Michael must have just let it go and told people to suck it up, and that, this thing isn't as bad as people say it is. So they made this move. They had to get rid of Bill Michael to promote morale. But I don't think this is just KPMG UK. I think KPMG overall has a big morale problem, especially in the United States as well, from what I've been hearing, because they lay people off. And then they go back to hiring people right after that. But my experience with KPMG would be the same, that morale was really low. And just the way leadership ran the firm is just, even for the big 4, is just not that good. The other thing that you can learn from this, and that I can tell you, is that this shows 2 things that people have to learn, that people don't understand, is that it shows you the hierarchy of things that matter in the big 4 accounting firms. And it's not technical knowledge, and it's not work ethic. It's social justice right now, I'd say, is number 1 at the top. And you have to have that constantly in the top of your mind, that you can't say the wrong thing. You cannot. You have to keep your mouth shut on this stuff or say the right things. And in order to say the right things, you might think you might think you're at the forefront of social justice, but you better stay current because this stuff changes very quickly, and you can't flinch on this stuff. So that means you need to keep your mind in the right space, and you need to, if you need to meditate or something, then you need to do that, because you can't go spouting off saying the wrong thing because your career's on the line. And right below social justice, I would put internal politics. And these two are right next to each other on priorities of your career. And I think they go hand in hand, but I think internal politics is less than social justice, because Bill Michael is at the top of the firm in the UK and he got axed. So social justice trumps internal politics, because I'm sure he had internal politics down pat since he was the chairman. It doesn't matter. He thought because he was so strong on internal politics that he couldn't have his job challenged. Nope, he was out in a matter of days. So social justice is at the top once you get the job at the big four accounting firms. But even to get the job in your interviews, you have to say all these things that the big four accounting firms want you to say. And that's why I cover them, like ESG. But then after that is internal politics. And this just goes to show how important all this is. And on top of that, you have to do your job, right? You have to do your job very, very well. And they say they're going to get rid of this forced distribution curve, but old habits die hard in the big four accounting firms. So they might get rid of the forced distribution curve, but they're going to come up with something very similar that makes people battle each other. But the only other way the better way to do it at the big four accounting firms would be to measure people on their output, on their creative output to client satisfaction, output to clients, the deliverables on time. The thing is, the big four aren't set up to measure that. And then on top of that, pipeline growth, like the growth of sales to clients. The big four have metrics to measure that, but it's just not a priority. The priority is utilization. The priority is kissing up to your bosses and making sure your bosses like you. So I'm not sure how this will go, but the thing to learn here is social justice in the UK and around the globe is important. And number 2 is internal politics, because otherwise you can be out of the firms very quickly. So that's the podcast for today. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast to get future updates, and like this video on YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you could support us financially, there's a Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes to this podcast so that we can keep putting out content. Thanks for listening.